So Dylan, the tour manager who's taken over from Zach. So Zach flew back from Bundaberg, and then Dylan met us up in Rockhampton before the show. And
Dylan would have to be the most stereotypical hippie Aussie surfer I've ever met.
Not
in
hippie,
my fucking
just
life.
like Gold Coast, the most Gold Coast
There's a
guy
little bit
I've
of
ever
hippie
met.
in there. Like, yeah, man,
I mean,
whatever.
True. Today we watched him climb a coconut tree.
Yeah.
And you know what?
And a waterfall. He's your mate who just didn't stop climbing shit when he was a child.
He said,
like, when I was 9, I was like, that's enough for me.
He said the other day, he goes, "Oh, my dad sent me a letter when I was 18. It wasn't really supposed to be funny. It was just really serious." He's like, "Oh, he sent me a letter that he was surprised that I was alive." And that's his vibe.
You're surprised that he made it to 18. Not because of any drugs or alcohol, just because of the constant doing dumb shit. Like, fuck, I wonder if I can get up there. That's what Dylan's thinking, like 24/7. He's just looking up and going, I wonder if I can get there.
No, today was different. I was looking at the coconut tree, and because we were like, there's no coconuts around. And then Dylan goes, well, there's heaps up there. And he pointed at the top of a 10-meter tall coconut tree.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, yeah, but
obviously, that's where they come from.
Yeah, and then I was like, obviously, well, we're not going to go up there. And he's like, oh, I could get up there. And I was like, no, you couldn't. And he goes, yeah. And then he just took off his shirt and climbed a 10-meter tall coconut tree, ripped some off, and then on the way down, just cut up his whole stomach. And he goes, yeah, that always happens. I was like, well, why did you do it?
He's still sporting the wounds now. This is the man who has stabbed himself in the chest trying to cut open a coconut.
Yeah. And once in high school...
Giant gash wound in his chest, just like the knife broke and he stabbed himself in the chest.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, I am also surprised that you're still here.
All these stories that he tells us, like we've been talking in the car because we have so much driving to do. Dylan just tells me stories, like only stories that would happen in North Queensland.
Yeah.
This is one that happened at school, right? He went to a school camp, stepped on a stonefish? A stonefish, and they're quite poisonous. No one knew what to do, and at the time they were like, oh, they thought it was like a jellyfish. Like maybe if you piss on it, maybe if you wee on it, we'll do it better. But he was on a school camp. So
Primary school, No,
high school.
High school?
His teacher watched Dylan's mate, who was also in high school, piss on him in front of the whole class.
Yeah.
So Dylan was there on the ground with his mate pissing on him, the entire class watching, and the teacher just watching on going like, well, fuck, it's better than nothing.
Who was the teacher? Mr. Kelly?
Huh?
R. Kelly?
No, Mr. Harris.
That is an interesting position for the teacher to be in.
Weird dynamic.
Can you piss on the kid to save his life?
Well, did you think it was a life-threatening situation, Dylan? Nah.
No, okay.
But see, that's the thing.
In what situation can a guardian that is not a parent piss on a child?
If the kid asks for it.
Yeah.
No.
If you want like a 6-part Netflix docu-series.
Yes.
Like if you really want one, it seems to be murdering 17 women or fucking kids seems to be the only way you can get on Netflix
or
these
just
days.
Doing a stadium tour, being a pop star, but that's a lot harder.
Fuck that.
So, but yeah, Dylan is like our unofficial tour guide. I described it before we started recording as you're like a tour guide if he was uninformed and didn't really give a fuck about being a tour guide.
Yeah, didn't know any of the details, just kind of knew the vibe of each area and where the best place to climb is.
Like, this is an example. I walked past a tree and they got those big, long, snow pea looking things hanging off it, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, what's that? And he goes, I don't know, but when they die, they sound a little bit like maracas. Now, that is information. It's not what I asked. It's not what I was looking for, but I also learned something.
It gives you the vibe.
I wasn't mad.
It gives you the vibe of the situation.
Yeah. And that's kind of his thing. I'm like, oh, because he knows his way around these parts of Australia quite well because he's been up and down here a fair bit. I'm like, oh, do you know where Thingo is? He goes, nah, but I've been to a place an hour away, and then he tells me a fuck story from there.
Yes.
So in that way, I can kind of get a vibe of the place that we're going.
Yes. Yeah. I think he's got videos of his phone of just him jumping off shit that we're like, what's the highest thing you've jumped off? And he brings up this bridge jump that he did a double backflip off, and it's like over a bridge, and you should not ever jump off it. It is so clear that you should never, ever jump off it. In fact, there were other tourists crossing the bridge at the same time, and it's so clear that no one should ever, ever drop off the bridge that they thought he was just committing suicide.
He has a video.
That was the only option in their mind of like, no one would ever jump on this for fun. This man clearly wants to die.
And by the way, Dylan showed us this video, and at no point was like, no point was like, oh man, this was crazy. It was just like, oh yeah, and look, these are the two ladies who thought I was committing, and he thought they were stupid. And I was like, yeah, man, they're the dumb ones. You just did a double backflip off a bridge, and you didn't know how deep it was.
Yeah. And we're like, why the fuck did you do that? That seems insane. You could die. Someone did die doing it.
Did you hear his justification?
Yeah. He goes, that wasn't the first time. We're like, what do you mean that wasn't the first time? He goes, well, I did the double backflip because the first time I did it, I only did one backflip. So I didn't,
he goes,
really
I wanted to do it properly. And then I was like, well, why did you even do it the first time? He goes, because I used to drive by that bridge and it just used to bother me that I hadn't jumped off it yet.